Well, I just want to welcome everybody today. My name is Nicole Greening, and I'm the Children's and Youth Selector here at White Hots. I want to thank everyone for joining us, and especially the Dewey Divas for this presentation of Curious Minds. And I believe Margot Stokreef will be the first presenter today. So Margot, please go ahead.
Thanks, Nikki. My first title is What Can I Do?, which is the question parents hear most often. And this book is the answer. It's full of fun and simple to follow format that children will enjoy, a whole world of activities that will keep them entertained on days like today, at home, on snow days, holidays, rainy days. This book looks to follow in the footsteps of Mary Richards, who's the author, her previous series called Take Me. And this was a great favorite among influencers and festival programmers who love the way she mixes art, craft, and imagination. But unlike that series, this book doesn't have sections to write in or fill in. It's designed as a reference book to be cherished and pulled off the shelf again and again and again. With facts running throughout, it encourages kids to spend their time really creatively. The activities are so interesting and can be done alone, with friends, indoors, outdoors, at home, at the library, at school. Some of my favorites are inventing a yoga pose, or a classic that my brothers and I used to do, making a time capsule. Plan your signature, design a building, really fun book. My next title is also very cool. How do animals see? So this is something I've wondered all my life, a unique approach to this topic of animal sight with in-depth information. So the author is an environmental and evolutionary biologist, as well as a PhD in zoology. There are over 200 colorful illustrations. So I've often wondered, how do animals actually perceive the world around us? How do they see the same colors? Is it true that that dog is actually watching TV? And is the vision of a fish blurry underwater like mine? So if you have ever wished you could ask the animals themselves, don't worry, because the book I am presenting holds the answers to these questions. We know what we see. Do we know what they see? Did you know that most animals do not recognize red color? Did you know that a bird that may only seem interestingly black to you can be painted in the most beautiful colors for members of its own species? So this comes from a publisher called Albatross, and I have a couple of books on this list. It's a Czech Republic publisher that started in the 40s, and I really encourage you to check out their whole list of beautiful, fun, super informative, gorgeous nonfiction picture books. And the next one is also from Albatross, called Atlas of Cats. Now, I am a dog person, but I do love the odd cat, and this made me a little bit more appreciative of cats. It includes tons of fun facts. For example, the unique pattern on their nose is equivalent to our human fingerprint, and that they drain sweat from their soft pads on their paws, which is why they don't pant like dogs. It highlights over 20 cat breeds from all over the world. The classic ones we know, Manx, Maine Coon, Russian Blue, but also the Canadian Sphinx. It also includes useful tips on how to care for your furry friend. Plenty of existing cat breeds to help choose which kind of cat might be the best choice for them. But when the readers need a little bit of break from all this wonderful info, they can turn to the Meow News, which is interesting stories and interviews in form of newspapers at the end of each chapter. And at the very end, the readers will find a fine selection of cat celebrities and cat record holders. So this is a must-have for even us non-cat people. From the same publisher is also a wonderful encyclopedia of plants, fungi, and lichens. Large size, methodical concept, different background color for each category of plants, fungi. And it's a new approach to teach children about the classification of the plant species. And again, over 200 colorful illustrations. So this planet of ours is teeming with vast numbers of plants, from small flowers to giant trees. And this encyclopedia will help you to get to know a few hundred of the best known and more interesting plants around the world. The way it's classified is particularly interesting. It's fun. It will introduce you to mysterious lichens, edible and inedible mushrooms, as well as the poisonous ones. And it teaches how to learn to classify various plants. The next title is Cat Eyes and Dog Whistles. So this is from Cicada Books. So this is about our 7 senses. So usually it's classified as 5, and they take an approach that we have 7 senses. So that looks at our complex systems and how we try to make sense of the world around us: touch, smell, sight, taste, hearing. But it also looks at proprioception and the vestibular system in clear and engaging explanations. So full of fun facts. So unlike the other senses, for example, smell is directly delivered to the part of our brain that is responsible for memory and emotion, meaning that smell can trigger feelings in a way that sight or sound can't. And then also those really fun facts like earwax is 80% dead skin. So one of the quotes is, "This is a marvelous science biology book that will get kids thinking about how their bodies interact with and make sense of the world around them. Make sense of our senses." So Cat Eyes and Dog Whistles, the 7 senses of humans and other animals, is a step-by-step guide through biology of the senses, bringing to life the remarkable world of communication in all its forms. This is good for kids aged 9 to 14. So not following directly with my instruction of nonfiction, I have some other Curious Mind books. This is Supposing. And this is truly a tribute to the imagination of children. Each page starts with supposing, followed by a hypothetical, often tongue-in-cheek chain of events. The text is originally from 1960 by the poet Alistair Reid, but new illustrations by the wonderful illustrator Jo Hee-yoon, which you may know. She's published several award-winning books, multi-starred books from Enchanted Lion, including Steadfast Tin Soldier, The Lion Who Would Be King. This is really playful, outlandish stories of anything and everything that can happen when you're freed from societal expectations and the boundaries of physics. And it's fun for adults too. The next title is Just to See. So every day, perched high up in her treehouse, a girl surveys the distant forest through her binoculars. She has learned every plant and animal, but look, you can see through her binoculars, there's a strange new tree that appears, towering above the others. Where did it come from? Is it really a tree? Intrigued, the girl sets off to take a closer look. It's inquisitive, sensory-filled, and it's a true exploration of the forest. Children will love the adorable animals and the unexpected discovery. Discussion opportunities about perseverance, exploration, curiosity, an entertaining read that champions strong and independent girls. It also involves open-mindedness, encouraging young readers to explore the wider world around them and getting out of their comfort zone. It includes a 4-page wordless spread that provides a wonderful opportunity for even the youngest readers to use their imagination. It includes an online teacher's guide, and all the books from this publisher are printed on sustainably sourced FSC certified paper. And a large portion of the sales of their books go to environmental causes. And the artwork, I think, is perfect for fans of Peter Brown and John Klassen. And the depth of the lake and the height of the sky. So speaking of wordless spreads, here is a wonderfully fully wordless picture book by a debut illustrator from South Korea. This book captures the beauty of summertime, friendship, and the natural world. It begins in the hustle and bustle of the city and moves to the slower countryside. So it's summertime, school's out, and a boy and his dog leave behind their apartment and head to their grandparents' home in the countryside, which feels like a completely different world. From the window, the curious boy sees a path leading enticingly into the forest. He can't wait to explore. At the bend in the trail, the boy discovers more wonders of his surrounding natural world, the trees, the lake. He's a real city boy in the country, and he can't resist diving down into the cool water and greeting the fish. Without a word, the depth of the lake and the height of the sky tells this heartfelt and uplifting story of a child's independent discovery of the natural world. Kim Ji-yoon cleverly captures excitement, wonder, and joy. The illustrations use a deceptively simple color palette that gets more and more colorful as the story goes on. It's a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard selection and starting to get some lovely reviews. My next title is Soria, Saving Soria, written by scientist and environmental activist Trang Nguyen. It's an inspirational graphic novel adventure based on a true story about her life as a young conservationist who overcomes the odds to save a sun bear. So she was a very curious and tenacious young child, and so she retells the story of Chang, who discovers a bear bile farm near her home in Vietnam, and she decides to do everything she can to save the wild animals by becoming a conservationist. So after she teaches herself survival skills and documents every rainforest plant and animal she can find in her notebook, she comes across disapproving critics who think she's far too young and not strong enough to be a volunteer at the rescue center. But despite the toughest challenges, she perseveres, and she is tasked with returning Soria. She takes care of this sun bear. She raises the bear from infancy and then has to take the bear back into the wild. It's a wonderful story, breathtaking art, STEM facts galore. Chang's daring story is for any young reader, animal lover, intrepid explorer who is ready for adventure. It's a born free for a new generation of readers. And there will be more stories in this series on different animals. A Dress with Pockets, so clearly not following the nonfiction requirement here. I love this book. It suits me perfectly. It's a funny, fashion-forward picture book about a subtle feminist, with a subtle feminist undertone that celebrates the joy and necessity of pockets in our clothing. So Lucy and Aunt Augusta are dress shopping, and at the fabulous fashion store, there are dresses to suit just about everyone. They're fancy, frilly, stripy, silly, sundresses, fun dresses, blue dresses, green dresses. But Lucy doesn't care about frills or lace. She wants dresses with pockets. And as she wades through the titchy dresses, witchy dresses, very, very itchy dresses, she starts to worry about where she's going to put her leaves, nettles, and delicate petals, her magical spells, and her beautiful shells. Lucy must find the dress of her dreams. This is a fantastic, funny, frock-filled story for modern children who don't just want sequences and sparkles on their dresses. This is a rising new star from the UK, Lily Murie and Jenny Lovely. The next is a really cool middle grade read. I loved this. This is the first in 3 stories of Marie Curious, and the tagline is 50% girl power, 50% genius equals 100% awesome. So this is perfect for ages 9 and up. So Marie is a whiz kid, and she's thrown into an exciting world of science, inventions, and saboteurs. A brilliant and imaginative start to a middle grade series for science lovers. She's invited to go to a prestigious science camp in California. She's originally from the UK. And she's surrounded by like-minded students, all desperate to win the secret competition with their inventions. But some students will do anything to win, including sabotaging their opponents. Marie works out who her friends are, who her foes are, and how she will be able to stop a computer virus from being unleashed on the world. I especially love the references to famous scientists, which kids can look up, and all the cool gadgets and inventions in this futuristic camp. Super smart adventure, perfect for those who have a passion for STEM subjects. And I can't wait for the next 2 books in this series. My last two titles, with 3 minutes remaining, are two beautiful books from Groundwood here in Toronto. I love Martin and the River. John Eric is back, Lapano, with another beautifully realized and poetic picture book. Environmental themes that we remember from the award-winning Tokyo Digs a Garden are here again. And this story deliciously conveys a young boy's absolute love for the natural surroundings of his rural home, especially the river that runs nearby, where there are places to build forts, catch frogs, and watch the great blue herons gliding overhead. But suddenly his idyllic existence is threatened when his mom and dad announce that they have to move to the city. So Martin is concerned. He can't sleep at night. He imagines digging a new path to bring the river all the way to his new home in the city. The parents are very kind and patient. They take an exploratory trip to the city, which is beautifully captured, this rural kid in the big city and all of his disorientation. He admits that he likes the museum, the fish market, the subway, and the escalator. But it isn't until his parents take him to the city park, which of course has saved many of us over the last 2 years in the pandemic, where he finds dragonflies, frogs, and minnows. The family that's created in this story is so lovable, and especially Martin. He's round and bespectacled, and he's comfortable in his jeans and his yellow rubber boots and a yellow hoodie. It is such a lovely book, full of humor, and just a really good example of city life, country life. And my final title is City Streets Are for People, and I think this is an awesome book for curious minds. It's a series that Groundwood does that's inspired by the urgency for new approaches to city life as a result of climate change and population growth, increased density. And the advocacy that this book invites is really good for curious-minded kids. The author's intention was to emphasize the present-day sustainable transportation solutions that contribute to a greener future for everyone. So the text invites us to imagine how much better our lives could be with better systems of transportation. So how do we build these cities? As with the other titles in this series, the book ends with a spread dedicated to the ideas on how kids can promote sustainable transportation in their own cities. For example, green transportation or bike club to your school or host a walk. It also highlights Toronto and how they've expanded their transit program for anyone, free for anyone under the age of 12. The book is grounded out with a glossary and wonderful list of sources. So those are my titles in 16 minutes on Curious Minds, and I'll pass it over to Rosalyn at HarperCollins. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Margot. Hi, thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Rosalyn Steele from HarperCollins, and here are a few of our forthcoming nonfiction titles that would be perfect for curious young minds. I'll start off with a few picture books, great for readers in the 3 to 6 year range. First up is Yoshi and the Ocean, which is our second book with Lindsay Moore. You might recognize her first book, Sea Bear, A Journey for Survival. Yoshi and the Ocean is a gorgeously illustrated book that tells the true story of a loggerhead turtle that was found injured by a Japanese fishing vessel in the Indian Ocean back in 1997. They rescued her, bringing her to an aquarium in Cape Town, South Africa. Yoshi lived there for 20 years, eventually being returned to the wild in December of 2017. Researchers attached a tracking device to her shell and were able to track her journey. Loggerhead turtles returned to the beach where they were born to nest. And like a lot of released turtles, she spent a year swimming around in loops. But then after the second year, she headed straight across the Indian Ocean to Western Australia, traveling an incredible 25,000 miles to a loggerhead nesting ground off the coast. Simple poetic text tells the story of Yoshi's travels, weaving in information about ocean life, ecosystems, and habitats, currents, the food chain, as well as other topics. There are 4 spreads of back matter at the end of the book, including the one that you can see on your screen. That is the map of Yoshi's journey. There's sea turtle biology, information on currents and predators, as well as information on the satellite trackers that were used. Next is What Jobs Could You Do by Catherine Barr. This is the paperback original picture book, so it won't work for all libraries, but for those who can take paperbacks or schools, I think it's a great book to spark kids' imagination about what they might want to be when they grow up. The book first asks kids what makes them happy. Do you like helping people? Do you like being creative? Do you like being quiet? And then the following spreads showcase different careers that might fit with each child's personality. I love the array of possible jobs that are presented, some of which don't often spring to mind when thinking of future careers. And the art from Spanish illustrator Ana Gomez is packed with details. Next is Up Your Nose by Seth Fishman. This is a new book from Seth and illustrator Isabel Greenberg. They have teamed up on a series of STEM-related books, including 100 Billion Trillion Stars and Power Up. The COVID pandemic has increased society's awareness about germs, how they work, and how they are spread. Oops. Up Your Nose is not a book about the pandemic, but a book about germs more generally, and explores and compares the 5 types of germs: bacteria, viruses, protozoa, fungi, and helminths. The book has its own, the body has its own natural defenses to germs, and Up Your Nose explores the immune system in great detail. It also lets kids know that there are a lot of beneficial germs, from viruses that help us fight dangerous bacteria to the bacteria that lives in our digestive tract that helps us break down the food that we eat. The text is done in a very engaging narrative style, and that encourages curiosity and conversations, so kids won't feel like they are reading a science textbook. Next is Building by Henry Cole. This has the same gorgeous art style, limited colors, and simple text as Nesting, which received 4-star reviews and was a Junior Library Guild selection. The book follows a beaver couple as they build a lodge, teach kids, and deal with predators. The information about beavers included throughout is very introductory and is the perfect primer for young nature lovers. It covers life cycles, feeding habits, mating, nesting, caring for the young, survival, and the wetlands ecosystem. And there's a great author's note at the back of the book that provides more information. Next is the Animal Toolkit. This is the first of 3 books from the hugely talented Steve Jenkins that I'll be talking about. This is a fascinating look at how different animals find and sometimes shape sticks, stones, leaves, and other objects and use them to perform all sorts of tasks. You can see some on the screen. There's a corolla spider that gathers quartz stones, usually 7 of them, and arranges them in a ring around it, then attaches a silk thread to each. Quartz is really good at transmitting vibration, so every time an insect brushes against the stone, the spider feels it and pounces on its next meal. There's a bird called the common tailor bird that uses her beak as a needle and sews a leaf together with a spider web or plant fibers to build her nest, and much, much more. I can tell you stories all day, but I won't. It's really fascinating stuff. I'll let you read it yourself. And again, with the other books, back matter provides a lot more information about the different animals featured, including a variety of basic stats, such as size, number of species, diet, environment, and more. Next is Animal Facts in One Day. This is the 2 new books in an ongoing informative early reader series by The Numbers. In this series, the author explores a wide range of facts and data about one topic using infographics, illustrations, facts, and figures. There's 4 previous books in the series: Dinosaur and Earth, and Insects and the Solar System. These books come out in both hardcover and paperback simultaneously. They're great for kids who love facts. Each book includes a table of contents, glossary, and bibliography, and do include metric measurements, which is always great. Animal Facts by the Number includes facts like number of hours of sleep needed across species. Apparently koalas sleep more than sloths, so they have sloths are getting a bad reputation as being lazy, and a giraffe only needs 2.5 hours of sleep per day. In One Day, it looks at what happens around the world in a single day. Apparently 6,000 new books are published every day. Each day, the equivalent amount of plastic to 2 billion water bottles ends up in our oceans. Sadly, Steve passed away earlier this year, but his amazing book legacy continues with these 3 new books and with 1 more to come next year. For kids who love search and find puzzles, we have 3 new ones. This is, The first is Look and Find Puzzles. That's the next in the series from Usborne. There's a key of what you are searching for in each spread along the bottom of the screen, as you can see here. And there's additional prompts to count and interact with the art. There's a lot of funny things hidden in the art, including sheep drinking tea and a cat driving a tractor. The next one is Where's the Tiger, which is a search and find book created in partnership with the World Wildlife Federation, and kids can spot endangered animals hiding in these detailed scenes. There's 12 scenes in all, and the book includes facts about each of the animals portrayed. And then Unicorn and Friends, encourages kids to find unicorns, catacorns, monkeycorns, narwhals, and other fantastical creatures hiding in the busy scenes. These books are all great to develop observational skills. And then next is Unsolved Case Files. This is the next in one of my favorite graphic novel series, the Unsolved Case Files, which documents still unsolved crimes from the files of the FBI. This is great for fans of history and whodunits, this book documents the Isabel Stewart Gardner Museum heist. In just 81 minutes, the theft was the single largest property theft in the world, and because the museum housed some of the world's most valuable art. It's minute by minute detailing of the heist, there's lots of sidebars that provide facts about the museum and the crime and how authorities believe it was committed. And there's back matter that shows period photos and source materials from the material in the FBI archives. I think reluctant readers love this series. The Wonders We Seek is the next one, 30 incredible Muslims who helped shape the world. This is great for fans of the Rebel Girl series. This book offers inspiring Muslim representation. It pairs historical figures with their contemporary counterparts, showing not just how Muslims helped shape our current world, but how they continue to do so by breaking barriers and forging new paths. Kids of all religions can look at these exemplars as inspiration for all of the ways that they too can change the world. We have paired the stories with these great illustrations, portraits and illustrations by Safra Khan, a Muslim illustrator who really brings the figures in the book to life. Sadia, the author, is the author of the Yasmin chapter book series and the author of the novels A Thousand Questions and Yusuf Asim is Not a Hero. And here she's writing with her mother, who's an acclaimed academic. Next is A Year of Nature, Craft, and Play, 52 Things to Make and Do. This is from our Collins line of educational titles, and it's written by award-winning children's therapist and former social worker Becky Goddard-Hill and gardening blogger Catherine Hughes. So it's a handy collection of 52 things to make and do, one for each week of the year. It's grouped seasonally with lots of crafts, outdoor projects, and activity ideas for kids to do year-round, from hunting for creepy crawlies to pressing flowers, building a mini pond or a twig boat, turning pumpkins into bird feeders, or making an ice ring for candles. There is an index at the back of the book, and the projects use easy to find and inexpensive supplies that kids can probably find at home. Next is Make Your Own Magic. This is by Irish TikTok star Joel M. Joel has 10 million TikTok subscribers, and Canadians make up 10% of those. He also has his own BBC One TV show in Northern Ireland and a 20-episode children's show on Sky TV. This is a humorous and entertaining volume that combines his personal story with more on the magic tricks that he is known for. And unlike most magicians, he actually gives readers step-by-step instructions on how to recreate those tricks at home. He also provides guidance for kids who might want to give TikTok fame a go of their own by highlighting what they need to do to build up a brand and followers. Next is a series of 4 books from Catherine Brereton, the Amazing Facts series. So she has written a lot of books, over 150, and is probably best known for her series of joke books, which are awesome jokes that every 6, 7, 8, or 9-year-old should know. Each book in the series features over 100 facts on a variety of topics. With each installment, the books get more complex, the sentences get longer, descriptions get more complicated, and the illustrations also get more elaborate. So this is a great resource for kids who like to spout facts over the dinner table. And speaking of TikTok, the next book is TikTok 100% Unofficial. This is the next book in our 100% Unofficial series of referenced titles. It's a guide to all things TikTok, which is the world's fastest growing social media platform with 800 million users. This book gives the history of the platform, which evolved from a site called Musical.ly. It gives you an overview of all the hottest stars on the platform, trending videos, and more. It's perfect for any aspiring TikTokers or people like myself, aging book reps who need to keep top on developing technology, as you never know which is going to be the next breakout book talk book, or which stars the editors are going to sign up for a book deal next. And moving into some teen books, we have Story Booth. Initially launched in 2016, Story Booth is a digital platform that invites teens to share and younger kids to share their stories, and it quickly became a YouTube sensation. The channel now has 2 billion views, 5 million followers, and regularly racks up millions of views for each new story that they post, which is on YouTube, TikTok, and Snapchat. So the stories in this book cover a wide range of topics and issues, and can be in turn inspirational, heart-wrenching, uplifting, and humorous or thought-provoking. Each book in the story is true, submitted by a real person. Their identities remains anonymous, but you get their authentic voice coming through. And this book has 74 stories with full-color illustrations in a variety of style. Some of the book's topics include prejudice, grief, sexual assault, and mental illness. So it's a very reassuring read for kids who sometimes feel like they are alone in experiencing such challenges. And the illustrator is the same one who does the online illustration, so it'll be familiar to readers. And my last book is Queer Ducks and Other Animals. This is by author Elliot Schreffer. It's a nonfiction book about queer behavior in the animal kingdom, and it's the first of its kind for any age range, really. So I think you'll find middle grade and adult readers looking for this one as well. It's definitely not a textbook. It's packed with irreverent comics and doodles from artist Jules Zuckerberg, and it looks at this is the book to hand to anyone who's wrestling with the feeling that being straight and cis is the correct way to be, or there's something wrong or unnatural about being queer. The book walks readers through all the variations of sexual behavior in animal species without assigning morality to whether the animals have sex or not, or how many partners they have sex with. It's really fascinating, and it provides also showcases of the scientists who are doing research from a variety of different sexual orientations. So it's also inspirational for kids of all backgrounds to get into to STEM professions. The author is a critically acclaimed and best-selling kids author who has spent over a decade writing about and researching animals. And he was inspired to write this after looking up homosexuality in the encyclopedia when he was a kid, and it being described as unnatural. And he was reassured to find out that it is not natural. It occurs in every species in the world. So thanks very much. That's my list. And I'll turn you over to Tim.
Thanks, Rosalyn. I'm Tim Gang from Canadian Manda Group, and thanks again for joining us. The first book on my list is the little kids' first book of big book of baby animals. This is classic National Geographic Kids publishing, has fantastic photography and text that's been vetted by our wildlife experts, and it is about 40 different and all very cute baby animals from around the globe. Has a few spreads for each animal, and they include a map showing where the animal lives in the wild, and also include a few questions to encourage some more interactive learning. Then the next book on my list is Awesome Accidents. This is a wonderfully illustrated title that covers 19 of the most significant, life-changing, or random discoveries, including the invention of fireworks, potato chips, coffee, Post-it notes, X-rays, and more, and is a great introduction to the concept of serendipity, and that by embracing mistakes and learning from failures can be a key part of the learning process. Then next up is Deep. This book has highly detailed illustrations, and it explores the hardest places to reach, from the molten depths of our planet the frigid depths of outer space, and the inner workings of the human body. Then that is followed by Discovering Tigers, Lions, and Other Big Cats. So this book covers all the big cats of the world, from the well-known safari favorites, lions and cheetahs, to the more elusive, such as the snow leopard. It provides information on species-specific behaviors, habitats, diets, some cool, quirky information, and more. And it has gorgeous, scientifically accurate illustrations by a Vancouver artist that leap off the page, pun intended. Then that is followed by Road Trip Earth. This is the second book in a middle grade series from the creators of the award-winning children's podcast Brains On. It takes readers on a humorous, highly illustrated, fact and fun-filled journey through the Earth, from the core to the outer atmosphere and everywhere in between. And it's perfect for STEM. And also available as the first book in this series from a few seasons ago, It's Alive, that has the same winning treatment, but is focused on life on Earth. Then next up is the Book of Bees. I know that there have been quite a few books on bees in the past few years, but what I think what really sets this one apart is the absolutely amazing macro photography. The book includes facts on more than 50 species of bees, with information on their habitats, how to identify different ones, hive structure and hierarchy, their importance as pollinators, the reasons for their declining populations, and what kids can do to help reverse that. Then next up is We Have a Dream. So there also have been quite a few books published in the past few years that are illustrated biographical profiles of important individuals. But this one I thought was unique enough to be highlighted because it's focused solely on 30 young environmental activists from around the world who are Indigenous or a person of color. Their communities are disproportionately affected by climate change, and yet they are underrepresented within the environmental movement. And so the book's goal is to help change that. And it includes two Canadian women, Autumn Pelche, who's from Manitoulin Island, and Caitlin Bakey, who is from Northern Labrador. And then that is followed by Grow. This is a delightfully illustrated and fact-packed guide to 15 different types of plants, including maple trees and mushrooms. So it has information on how to grow them, regardless of whether that's in a backyard or container gardening on patios and windowsills. And then for each plant, the book has suggestions on how to use them in recipes, or in the case of aloe vera, in home remedies. Then that is followed by Kaleidoscope of Dinosaurs in Prehistoric Life. This book is bursting with color and will show readers dinosaurs in a way that they've never seen before. It's based on new research and cutting-edge theories on feathered dinosaurs, and unlocks the colorful secrets of the fossil records and what their million-year-old remains tell us about how extinct animals really lived and looked. And the next up is Built by Animals. This book is a detailed introduction to the creatures who have inspired the creation of some of the materials and techniques that are used in the building world today. So it explains how beehives, honeycomb shapes are used to strengthen structures, how termites build their nests with natural air conditioning, and more. And it also includes information about peacocks, fireflies, prairie dogs, and beavers. So it does have, it does feature quite a few common Canadian animals. And then next up is Hildy on the Record, Memoir of a Kid Crime Reporter. This is a unique memoir written by a teen for tweens by Hilda Lysiak, whose name you may be familiar with because she was the inspiration for and a co-author of the best-selling series of Hilda Cracks the Case mystery chapter books that were published by Scholastic. And so when she was 7 years old, her family moved from New York to a town in Pennsylvania that didn't have a local newspaper. So Hilda decided to start one herself and covered community events such as seed exchanges, fundraisers, before starting to write about more serious items like accidents and fires. And in 2016, when she was still only 10 and at the police station concluding a story about vandalism, she overheard the chief say that a call had come in about a serious crime, which turned out to be a murder just a few blocks from Hilda's house. So she followed the chief, was first on the scene, and filed the first story about the murder hours before any bigger mainstream media outlets. But after that, her family had to overcome intense criticism from other parents and professional reporters, and Hilda became the target of bullies because of her gender and appearance. So the book is an inspirational story of determination, courage, and perseverance, and perfect for any young aspiring journalists out there. The next up is Forensics for Kids. This includes a complete history of forensic science, giving readers a comprehensive understanding of the crime-solving advancements that led to modern forensics. And it also reveals fascinating stories, famous cases, and pioneers who led the way, and what forensics might look in the future. And the book also includes 21 suggested engaging activities using everyday items that offer readers hands-on experiences with modern forensic methods. And that is followed by 2 books, Railroads to Superhighways and The Earth Experiment. So I'm just checking my time quickly. So these are the first 2 books in a brand new full color illustrated middle grade series called Change Makers that are perfect for STEAM learning. The books combine histories, stories, and facts to provide an all-encompassing view of a specific topic, and they encourage critical thinking and analysis. So the first book, Railroads to Superhighways, which are information superhighways, explains how technology has shaped our world, while the second book in this series, Earth Experiment, explains what is causing global warming, how it's affecting the world, and what we can do about it. The next up is Return to Factopia. This is also part of a series. It's book 2 in a series launched by the new iteration of Encyclopedia Britannica that started with Factopia last spring. These books are packed with 400 interesting and fun facts on all manner of subjects, all on full color illustrated spreads, and it has a highly engaging structure in that there's a sort of choose your own adventure element to the book, where each fact is connected to several others in the book so that readers can choose where to go next and will be highly entertained with where they end up. And then my final title on the list is my only young adult nonfiction title that I've included for ages 12 and up, Idea Makers, 15 Fearless Female Entrepreneurs. This book shares the inspirational stories of 15 women who have changed the world through their entrepreneurship. And so readers will learn about how these women risked their early careers, gave up salaries, and sometimes even went against the approval of their families to follow their passions and start their own businesses. And it explains how today these women are modern leaders of companies worth billions of dollars that employ tens of thousands of people around the world. So that's my list. Thanks very much. And now Laureen is up next.
Thanks, Tim. Hello, this is Laureen Cusack speaking to you from Ampersand, and here is my selection of children's Curious Mind books. First up is the Absolutely Epic Science Experiments. The Absolutely Epic titles are a new STEM series of how-to books in paperback for kids 7 years and older. Readers will learn how to build, design, and feel inspired as you have fun tinkering 50 experiments in the safety of your home. Kids will learn about biology, chemistry, and physics, and it covers topics like force, optics, acoustics, and more. Every experiment is set out in clear step-by-step instructions with hilarious cartoon artwork and includes a breakdown of the scientific principles behind the experiment. Another STEM series is the Let's Explore titles. How Things Work is an introduction to engineering with full color illustrations for readers 5 to 9 years. This hardback reference guide explains the science behind different gadgets, machines, and technologies, from airplanes and bicycles to clocks and computers. It's easy to read and will help curious kids better understand the concepts on what makes a bicycle go, what makes a hot air balloon go up, and what makes a clock tick. Same here. This is a big idea book that emphasizes inclusion. It's a playful look at how kids around the world live and the common thread that unites them. It has advanced text and it's for readers 8 to 12 years old. The pages highlight diverse family structures and lifestyles, cultures, and geography, and we see what kids eat, how they dress, how they learn, and how they play. Same here invites the reader to think about their own lives while learning about the experience of other children across the globe. And just in time for the gardening season is My Delicious Garden, which explores and celebrates the wonders of growing a vegetable garden from seed month by month. The young girl in the story carefully plants her garden at the beginning of the year. And as the months go by, we see her weed and water and care for her garden until it's time to harvest. Little kids will want to get their hands dirty after reading this book. And this is for readers 4 to 8 years. And for the more serious reader, we have Defending Orcas. It's for 10 to 12-year-old readers who not only love whales, but want to understand more about conservation and the environment. Captain Paul Watson is a well-known marine conservation activist who founded the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, and he was also a founder of Greenpeace. Readers will learn about the world of orcas, their unique characteristics, their place in the ocean's ecosystem, and how they are also hunted and captured. Captain Paul takes the reader behind the scenes at performing orcas and how they're treated at marine parks worldwide and why we must take a stand against captivity. The book has beautiful full-color photographs throughout. Big ideas for the big outdoors. This book not only inspires, but also encourages the reader 6 to 10 years to unplug and explore the great outdoors through art and play. The book is filled with imaginative craft projects and outdoor play in full-color photographs and illustrations. Examples include making a stickman sculpture for the garden, create a checklist to spot animals in your neighborhood, plan an outdoor scavenger hunt, and identify the trees on an outdoor walk, and lots more ideas throughout the book. Okay, next up is Illustoria. So Illustoria is designed and formatted like a print magazine for creative kids 6 to 12 years. The interior pages in this issue explores everything about the senses, what we can see, hear, touch, and taste. The text has engaging interviews with artists, a sensory expert, a tea taster, a sound engineer, and even a perfume maker. The pages are illustrated with attention-grabbing comics, stories, and it includes DIY projects. Lonely Planet Kids. So the Lonely Planet Kids books, they educate and they encourage young readers from 9 through 12 years at home and in school to learn about your world. Eco Hero is a new activity book offering practical tips and projects like recycling, how to avoid food waste, and organizing a community litter collection. Some of the DIY projects include making an herb garden and designing a tote bag for shopping. The pages have comic-like illustrations with shout-out facts and instructions for each project or activity. And then we have the Basher Science books. So there are dozens of Basher nonfiction titles circulating, and this is the newest title to the fold. Green technology is part of the solution to climate change, and this book offers some solutions that kids can support. The text is for the advanced reader of 9 through 12 years old, and the text has a chatty style to better understand the science behind the technology. Some of the topics include cleaning up the oceans, fighting plastics, and addressing pollution. And each page has a cute manga comic-like character assigned to the solution. Tales of Ancient Worlds. This exciting kids archaeology book will stand out against the other books on the subject. It's an incredible exploration of historical ancient worlds. Discover and learn about the Ice Age, Stonehenge, the unique statues on Easter Island, the mystery of Machu Picchu, and other destinations. The author has been obsessed with history ever since he was a youngster, and he has a very large following on his YouTube channel, about 80,000 subscribers. Next up is The Hospital. So set over the course of one day, this book takes the young reader behind the scenes of a busy hospital. You will follow different patients as they navigate their way through the hospital corridors for different treatments. You'll meet paramedics and doctors and nurses and other incredible staff in different medical departments who care for you while being treated or visiting a friend or relative. And the author is Dr. Nwora. She's a doctor at the Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore. And my last book is What the Dinosaurs Saw. This new dinosaur book is a vibrant depiction of the earliest days of life on Earth before humans. It uses a timeline and it shows how life adapted and evolved during and after the time when the mighty dinosaurs roamed the Earth over 250 million years ago. I can't even understand that. The text has been fact-checked by experts in the field, so it includes the most updated and fresh information available. And the illustrations are bold and vibrant and full color. So now I'm going to pass you over to Andrea.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrea Colhoun from Penguin Random House, and here is my books for curious minds. The first one is How to Say Hello to a Worm by Carrie Percival. This book uncovers the magic of growing and eating one's own crops and can spark veggie curiosity in picky eaters. The kids learn different concepts and methods of gardening in the most joyful and playful way. Each page is an invitation to experience a different aspect of gardening and being outside. Less of a traditional how-to and more of a how to appreciate, this paints an inviting and accessible picture of what a garden offers. And with an absence of an adult presence, it empowers children to view the garden and its creatures through their own eyes, driven by curiosity and wonder, depicting and encouraging hands-on experiences that teach respect for the earth. My next book is Solitary Animals by Joshua David Stein. This lyrical text honors animals who live in solitude, in contrast to others who live in groups. Learn the name for groups of animals like zebras and hummingbirds, but more importantly, that there are some animals that live alone, like the sloth and the panther. The explanation of why some animals live alone and how all creatures are social and solitary at times makes understanding this concept very relatable. It highlights the behavior of solo animals in a way that affirms human social behaviors. Often, raising an introverted child who would rather play alone seems like an impossible challenge. This book acts as a perfect conversation starter, one that comforts and empowers young readers and their caregivers to find solace in solitude. My next book is Eggs from Red Hen Farm by Monica Wellington. From the author of Apple Farmer Annie, Monica now shows kids where eggs actually come from, with 6 mazes to show how food gets from the farm to the grocery store and the final stop of your table. It also teaches things like map skills, sequencing, STEM, and about communities. There are picture clues throughout that will help children pick out the most important words with fun info for all levels of ability. Blue by Nana Uku Brew Hamad. This is the surprisingly painstaking and brutal history behind the color blue. This royal hue is explored with powerful illustrations that reflect blue's global importance and connection to nature, as well as our emotions. How one color has evolved and come to mean so much to so many over the course of history. Things you will learn: that Afghanistan was one of the first places where blue was unearthed. That blue was a color that was so rare and costly that it wasn't until 1905 when Adolf von Baer created a chemical blue dye that blue could be used for anything and everything, most notably your blue jeans. Bach's Giant Leap by Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong takes readers through the history of the moon's formation. We see the many millennium and dramatic activity involved in forming our current planet and moon. Armstrong found a rock on the moon that he names Bach. He uses Bach to provide an eyewitness to cosmic events, such as how the Earth evolves and changes for centuries. Along with geology and evolutionary biology, Bach has watched it all, even the first landing on the moon. This is the only picture book by Armstrong, and it was adapted from a speech he gave while being honored. Bach doesn't tour with him, but resides in a Cincinnati museum. 1 Million Trees by Kristen Belush. The Canadian government hired people to plant 1 million trees to replace the trees that had been cut down by loggers. This is based on her childhood experience when her and her family traveled to BC to help plant those trees. The author provides a fun way to learn about trees: how to plant them, where to plant them, how to tell how old they are, and what we use the cut wood for. Using captions integrated into the art and questions asked in speech bubbles, she discusses the importance of trees in our world and why we need to replace the ones we cut down in forests. She ends with a modern-day look at what her family helped accomplish: a stand of huge trees growing on what used to be an empty, muddy patch of bare stones. One Turtle's Last Straw by Elisa Boxer. Based on the viral video that created awareness of the harm caused by plastic straws, this heart-wrenching story is a perfect tool for teaching children about sustainability. This is the story of how a young boy finishes his drink and tosses it in the trash, straw and all. He moves on without another thought. A while later, in the waters off Costa Rica, scientists spot an endangered sea turtle and pull him aboard to study him. But he has something stuck in his nose. A barnacle? A stick? No, it's a plastic straw. This turtle rescue reminds us that even the smallest straw can hurt our ocean life, and that the smallest demand for change can grow into something big. The Mystery of the Monarchs by Barb Rosenstock. A picture book based on the true story of a scientist who solves the mysteries of monarch butterfly migration with the help of school children. Fred has always been fascinated with insects, but his favorite has always been the monarch butterfly. After he became an entomologist, Fred and his wife Nora tagged hundreds of butterflies, but they needed help. So they started a butterfly family, a community of children, teachers, and nature enthusiasts from 3 countries, Canada, the US, and Mexico, all helping to answer the question, where do the monarchs go? Detailed materials in the back of the book include the maps of monarch migration, the life cycle of the butterfly, and the cultural relevance of monarch butterflies in Mexico, as well as information on environmental efforts toward monarch conservation. I can tell you that if you go to Grand Bend in September and go down to the beach, you will be able to see part of that migration for yourself. My next book is Animal Teams by Charlotte Milner. This book explains how animals work together to survive and thrive in the wild. It teaches children how important teamwork is, no matter how big or small a creature you are. Have you ever asked why birds swoop and soar in a flock? Or wondered where an army of ants is marching? Did you know that flying in flocks means birds can sleep as they fly? This is a great book on different groups of animals and how they work together to survive in their environments. My next book is Children of the World by Nicola Edwards. Discover what life is like for children all around the world. Explore everything from food to family, and even learn how to say hello in many different languages. Find out where it's polite to slurp your food and bad manners to give the thumbs up sign, where children travel to school by cable car, and even discover who sleeps on an oven bed at night. This is a fascinating look at the lives of children around the globe, celebrating the many differences and diversity in the world. Mr. DeMaio presents. So this is the first 2 books in a new series based on his popular YouTube channel. Mr. DeMaio was started by a science teacher who wanted to keep kids entertained while educating them. The books definitely have a magic school bus feel to them, with opening and closing comics on each spread, and the characters interact with the photos, with each other, and often with the reader. In the first one, Mr. DeMaio and his crew unearth all the facts for record-breaking natural disasters that have occurred on planet Earth, and even a few in outer space. The second book starts out in space, and they travel across the galaxy in search of the biggest stuff in the universe. My next book is with DK, with Back to Life. This is a trip into the past with mysteries brought to life and reconstructions of how life was in history. Back to Life turns back time to reveal realistic reconstructions of the most incredible locations and exciting moments in history. Each story begins with an archaeological site or artifact. You'll learn when and how it was discovered and what it teaches us about how the people who lived at the site might have spent their days. My last two books are space books. Behind the Scenes at the Space Stations by DK. Behind the Scenes at the Space Station is a treasure trove of information. Did you know that during a 24-hour period, the space station completes 16 orbits of Earth? And the astronauts on board see 16 sunrises and sunsets every day. Or that the International Space Station is so enormous that it was launched in pieces and constructed in orbit. Discover what it's like to work on a space station with job profiles uncovering the work that goes on at the space station with roles such as astronaut, of course, mission commander, and planetary scientist. A behind-the-scenes guide to the space station and the work that goes on there. This book will seek to answer any and all questions about living and working on the space station. From the seemingly mundane tasks to the truly awe-inspiring experiences. And for my last book, and one of my favorite nonfiction authors, this is a first foray into middle grade for kids. This is Packing for Mars for Kids by Mary Roach. This is an adaptation of her adult book by the same name, but Mary completely rewrote this for the middle grade audience. It is full of fascinating information and just a bit, okay, a lot of irreverence. You will learn more about the mechanics and dangers of vomiting in a spacesuit, or what the early space capsules smelled like than you'll ever want to know. This book does an excellent job of examining some of the mundane tasks that must still be completed in space and the technical wizardry the engineers performed to make it happen. Have you ever wondered what astronauts actually eat or how long it takes for them to acclimatize to each other's body odor? Wonder no more. This book goes into every gory detail at what life in space is like. It's peppered with humorous dialogue from the earliest astronauts about their bodily functions. And this is a truly captivating book about some of the less investigated nuances of space travel. Thank you very much. That is my list. I hope you enjoyed it. And I will now pass you on to Allie.
Thank you, Andrea. Hi, everyone. I'm Allie Chenoweth from Scholastic, and here are my picks for Curious Minds. I'm going to start with this gorgeous, gorgeous picture book. It's called To Change a Planet from Christina Stone-Tornbat, and it's illustrated by Rahele Jompour-Bell. It features poetic, sparse text with gorgeous artwork. It gently illuminates the causes of climate change while also providing hope and hands-on solutions that will empower even the youngest readers. This picture book is an in-house favorite for many of our reps as an antidote to eco-anxiety. It shows how one carbon dioxide molecule, it seems small and insignificant, but when cars and factories and cities let loose millions and billions and trillions, they can trap and stifle and become like a too warm blanket on our Earth. And one notch higher on the thermometer, it might seem small and insignificant, but one notch higher could change our seas, our seasons, life, and us ourselves. And when one person and another person become many, they can change a planet for the better. It's a beautiful picture book that demonstrates the importance of caring for our planet, how our individual and collective actions multiplied can make the world better. And it uses clear, informative, wonderful text. There are meticulously researched endnotes that will answer a myriad of questions in simple language. It cites irrefutable sources and provides hands-on solutions that even young children can be a part of. So this will be really appealing for parents and caregivers, STEM teachers, and librarians looking to help children understand the natural world and foster responsibility and stewardship. Christina Soontornvat has written over a dozen books for young readers, including A Wish in the Dark, which was a Newbery Honor book. But what you might not know about her is that she has an engineering background, and she spent a better part of a decade in the science museum field, where she designed programs and exhibits to get kids excited about science. And so I'm really glad that she's tapping into that background for this picture book. My next book is The Ocean is Kind of a Big Deal from illustrator Nick Selleck. It's a follow-up to The Sun is Kind of a Big Deal and The Brain is Kind of a Big Deal. And he's turned his focus now to the world's biggest ecosystem, the ocean. It's funny, it's factual, it looks at plant and animal life undersea, the ocean's contributions to the world we live in, and what we can do every day to protect it, all the while using very accessible text and these hilarious anthropomorphized marine life. It helps the readers learn through jokes and comic panels. This is another funny, smart, and accessible book for curious kids in grades 1 to 3 who enjoy learning about the natural world. My next book is the 9th book in the Scholastic Canada biography series, Meet Marianne Shadd. I love when this series profiles a hero from Canadian history that is not quite a household name, but absolutely should be, and Marianne Shadd falls into this camp. She was an abolitionist, a teacher, an advocate for equal voting rights, gender equality, and a huge proponent in early days for desegregating education. She's maybe best known as a journalist and publisher who started her own newspaper, a woman publisher of a newspaper, the Provincial Freeman in Toronto. It was an abolitionist paper that had subscribers both in Canada and the United States. She lived an incredible life. Author Liz McLeod does a great job of detailing it. And Marianne, after her husband died, her and her children returned to the US and she went to law school. She became one of the first women, Black women to go to law school and the second Black woman to graduate with a law degree in 1883 at the age of 60. She is a remarkable trailblazer. Everyone should know about her. This is a perfect book to highlight Black history and women's history juvenile collections. Up next is Because of You, John Lewis. This is a very inspiring true story of a friendship between the late Congressman John Lewis and 10-year-old activist Tybree Faw. This is a perfect entry point into civil rights history as a precursor for readers who are not quite ready for Lewis's graphic novel series, March. And it tells the story of 10-year-old Tybree Faw, who was a kid who was obsessed with history and the civil rights movement. He devoured every book he could read on the subject. And when he learned that Congressman John Lewis does this heroic cross against the Edmund Pettus Bridge every year to commemorate the Bloody Sunday, he became determined to meet his hero. And that's what he did. His two grandmothers drove him 7 hours from Tennessee to Selma, Alabama, on the week that John Lewis was going to be marching across the bridge, and the two of them meet. And John invites Tybree to join him to cross the bridge. And author Andrea Pinckney Davis does this great job of drawing this parallel between John Lewis, his relationship with Martin Luther King Jr., that mentorship that profoundly changed his life, and how John passed that same torch on to Tybree. You can look up the moment on YouTube of Tybree meeting John, and every time I watch it, I sob uncontrollably. It's a beautiful story, a great entry into civil rights history. Now moving into some STEAM-focused curriculum, Animated Science is a new series that we have, super fun resource to supplement science and chemistry learning for kids in grades 3 to 7. We're starting this series with the periodic table, and kids will meet the building blocks of our world, the universe. This is not the way that your average periodic table looks, and they can see how they come together to make everything we see, do, and use every day all the while laughing at lots of the jokes and illustrated gags peppered throughout. It is a perfect resource for introducing the fundamentals of chemistry, and there's more to come from this series. This fall, we're going to be doing animated rocks and minerals. My next series is Real World Math. This is for any kid who has sat in a math class and wondered, when will I ever use this in real life? I like to think of this series as like a great PR strategy for math. It will get kids excited for the very real ways that math is used every day, and it covers K-2 math concepts like counting from 1 to 100, basic addition, subtraction using the power of 10, measuring, and simple geometry, and demonstrates how they're applied in high interest topics and careers like coding, building, tracking animals, and space exploration. There are also real world scientists, architects, programmers, mathematicians who share their hands-on field experience that will get kids really excited to learn and apply math. It's perfectly crafted for 4 to 8-year-olds, and there's also a section called You Can Do It that has math challenges for kids who are ages 4 to 8. My next series is also STEM focused for kids ages 5 to 7. It's called How It's Built. If you have been near kids during construction season, which is imminent here in Toronto, you'll know they have endless questions about what's going on at construction sites. And so in How It's Built, we have 6 kids, the junior engineers, and they take turns visiting various kinds of construction sites to show kids how big structures are built. And they learn exactly what it takes to build those things that they see and engage with every day, like houses, cars, bridges, and things that they could only ever dream of building, like rockets and skyscrapers. It's that classic magic school bus method. It features full color photos that bring each building process to life in a new and engaging way. It's perfect for the budding architect, engineer, or industrial designer. And speaking of budding architects and engineers, Amazing Landmarks is a fascinating look at how some of the most iconic global landmarks came to be, the particular challenges that they faced and solutions found. And it puts readers in the seat of the builders, and it poses questions about how they would make a budget or draw up plans or handle the problems that arise to create something that stands the test of time. It features all of the greatest hits on big landmarks. It's got the Great Wall of China, the Taj Mahal, Big Ben, Statue of Liberty, Eiffel Tower, Panama Canal, Golden Gate Bridge, Sydney Opera House, the Vietnam Veterans Memorial in Washington, D.C., which is fascinating, and of course the Burj Khalifa. This is ideal for kids in grades 2 to 5 with a growing interest in STEAM. My next series is from Scholastic Library Publishing. This is their trusty True Book line. Like Andrea, I have some space books on the list, and it's not surprising because we've seen a lot of big space news in the past couple of years, with not 1 but 2 rovers landing on Mars, and maybe the confirmation of the existence of UFOs. And of course, we can't talk about human missions to outer space anymore without mentioning a certain couple of billionaires. So this series is 48 pages of spectacular photos, colorful illustrations, and easy to understand infographics. It includes a chapter featuring jobs in each relevant science field, and it also includes, of course, an index, resources, and glossary. It's perfect for classrooms and libraries supporting science curriculum. And finally, my last book is some really engaging nonfiction. It ties well with social studies and a great supplement for curriculum teaching ancient civilizations in grades 3 to 7. This is The Curse of the Mummy, Uncovering Tutankhamun's Tomb. And it tells the true story about the rumors behind King Tut's tomb being cursed, because a number of the excavators and grave robbers of the tomb befell some pretty grisly fates. It reels you in with the ancient history of the boy pharaoh and his lavish tomb that was then lost and buried in the sands of the Valley of the Kings, its location unknown for ages, until centuries later when Egypt mania gripped Europe in the early 20th century, and 2 British men, this rich earl with a gambling problem and a disreputable but dogged archaeologist, teamed up to rediscover the infamous tomb. But once it was uncovered, both the excavators and the looters of the tomb seemed plagued with mysterious illnesses, accidents, deaths, and it fueled the rumors of the curse on anyone who dared to disturb the Boy King's final resting place. It's a fascinating lens to examine this history through. It makes it into this mystery that's super engaging. There's so much sand, but this is not dry. And Candace Fleming does an incredible job of demonstrating for a young audience how the impacts of colonialism, particularly French and British colonialism, really shaped the foundation of modern archaeology, and not in a good way. It is a perfect book to give young readers who might be wondering, why is it that there are so many ancient Egyptian artifacts in museums outside of Egypt? Highly readable. It's binge worthy, and I'm also really excited for Candace's book coming in the fall, which is all about UFOs and Roswell. So thank you so much. I am going to pass you over to my friend Janet at Orca Books.
Thank you, Allie. And thanks everybody for joining us. I'm Janet Murie from Orca, and I'm very happy to be joining you from the amazingly beautiful and wild unceded land of the Cowichan people here on Vancouver Island. My first title is Be a Good Ancestor. And empathy for the people who come after us means we need to consider the ways in which we live right now and to think about the repercussions of our behaviors. Rooted in Indigenous teaching, told by Indigenous authors and an Indigenous illustrator, this message, to be a good ancestor, delivers a poignant and universal message in an accessible way, coupled with these absolutely gorgeous illustrations. Who's Looking is a perfect little STEAM title that lets kids imagine the world as seen from the eyes of the creatures around us, ones we rarely consider, whether they are mice, ants, goats, or babies. I got very taken with the dragonflies. For instance, they have huge compound eyes with 30,000 teeny lenses, giving them spectacular vision. They see more color than we do, and they also see in slow motion, which is a thing I am constantly regaling my friends with to their great dismay. You can see in this image the white lines, and that shows you what the world looks like to these animals. The art throughout is just beautiful and follows an arc of time over a year, showing the changing seasons as a baby grows into a toddler. Sorry, go ahead. Journey of the Midnight Sun is based on a true story. In 2010, a charity raised funds to build and ship a mosque to Inuvik in the Northwest Territories, a journey of 4,200 kilometers. A small but growing Muslim community there had been using a cramped trailer for their services. This mosque traveled on this journey fraught with poor weather, incomplete bridges, narrow roads, low traffic wires, and a deadline to get on the last barge heading up the Mackenzie River before the first winter freeze. It is now one of the northernmost mosques in the entire world. Both author and illustrator identify as Muslim, and there's a short video on YouTube with stills from the actual journey. When a little girl loses her mom, her friends and family arrive at her house to sit Shiva, and she refuses to come downstairs, but the laughter and memories gradually bring her down into the fold, where she's comforted by a sense of community. She begins to feel stronger, more nourished, and when she sees her father alone crying, she's able to offer him comfort in turn. There's an end note from the author explaining the ritual of sitting Shiva and provides an overview of how other cultures honor loss. This book really could not be more timely. Told from the point of view of a pine cone, kids will learn all about wildfires, the natural forest cycles, and the changes that a warming climate is bringing to us. These illustrations, I think, bring a kind of soft touch to help deal with a daunting and scary topic in a safe and accessible way for young readers. And science here is integrated with storytelling. I didn't know that pine cones are pivotal in recreating forests following a fire. This is a great image of the pine cones lying underneath the ash and soil. Between the covers are many opportunities to learn about climate change and wildfire science and a multi-layered approach to facts and pictures. Then we're into middle grade. I think the thing to me that's remarkable about this book is that it isn't about internet safety. It's about how girls can use the internet for good. So while the book acknowledges the challenges, we're focusing on the less recognized and more positive parts of girls' online experiences. From environmental activism to gun control, immigration policy to education access, girls are really leading the way here. And the book features profiles of change makers with practical tools for getting started. It explores themes of feminism, diversity, intersectionality, and education. Some examples are Greta Thunberg, who used Instagram to spearhead a global youth movement, an Indigenous activist, Helen Gualinga in the Amazon, who used the internet to connect with other climate protectors, and Bana Alabed, who was 8 years old when she used Twitter to show the world what it felt like to live through the siege of Aleppo. There's a bibliography and resource section. Fashion Forward will have you never again buying a $6.99 t-shirt. It's a pivotal time for the fashion industry as its destructive social and environmental practices have come under scrutiny and innovations are now underway. The book looks at the history of fashion, from why people started wearing clothes in the first place, to the birth of consumerism, to the explosion of fast fashion and fashion's footprint. The industry is a major contributor to climate change, releasing 10% of the world's carbon emissions. It introduces readers to the innovative people, companies, and organizations that are taking positive change, and kids will discover how to make ethical clothing choices. Fresh Air, Clean Water starts from the premise that clean air and water is a fundamental human right, and goes on to ask questions like, what can you do? Do you have the right to demand change? What if your drinking water is dangerous? What if your air is polluted? What if your food is contaminated? What if you live in a city that floods as the sea rises? And what about trees, rivers, animals? Do they have rights too? It explores the connection between our environment and our health, and features profiles of kids all over the world who are taking action, as well as important environmental rights court cases. And of course, it references Canadian First Nations, particularly around clean water. Many countries have now protected the rights to a healthy environment in their constitutions, and there's discussion at the United Nations about creating a global right to a healthy environment. And of course, this book is timely, coming right on the heels of the new targets set by the Canadian government. I couldn't not include this book because I think this cover is the very definition of curious minds. It answers questions about sexuality that teens are already asking themselves in an inclusive, respectful, and practical way. It's translated from the French, originally published in Quebec, and it includes these bold and colorful illustrations, making this a great book to read either from back to back or just picking a page at random. There are 150 entries that cover key ideas about identity, relationships, self-image, sex, and body positivity, and no topic is taboo. Answers really questions that teens have always had but have been afraid to ask. Rush hour. Today, there are more cars clogging the roads than ever before. And in this book, kids will learn how traffic got so out of control and some of the innovative ways it's being managed around the world. From walking to school to carpooling or petitioning the government, this next generation of drivers has to think differently about traffic and understand what they can do now for a changed future. I really love this image here with a covered wagon as the first bit of traffic. I never even thought to be curious about traffic before I read this book, and it's fascinating. Salmon are amazing. They hatch in streams, they swim extreme distances out to sea, and then migrate back to where they were born to produce the next generation. And now their survival is threatened by human activity. This book looks at the unique biology of salmon within a broader ecosystem. They are a very recognizable animal that is frequently discussed in the news cycle in relation to numbers of migrating fish, farmed fish, commercial catch, orca populations, and more. There's a chapter dedicated to the importance of salmon to Indigenous communities that includes profiles of Indigenous biologists, environmentalists, and fishers, and is a true global look. Salmon are not just important on both coasts of Canada, but in Europe, South America, and Southeast Asia, sorry. Some of you will know the story of the witness blanket, which is very, very powerful. It's a piece of art created by Carrie Newman that has one item from every single residential school in Canada. Is such a powerful thing to look at. You can see here it's enormous. It weighs several tons, and it's currently housed in the Museum for Human Rights in Winnipeg. I think the next image has the moccasins, these tiny moccasins that just smash my heart every single time I look at it. The witness blanket team traveled over 124,000 miles, visited 77 communities, and met over 10,000 people in every Canadian province and territory. Every Indigenous community is represented in this book. It's really, really something. There is a glossary, there is a list of resources, and you can see a documentary on the creation of this project on the Knowledge Network. What do you want to do when you grow up is such a common question, but only 10% of kids grow up to do what they dreamed of. Homework is the very first work people do, and by the end of their lives, they will have spent 90,000 hours working. In this book, author Monique Polak investigates the history and innovation of jobs, including how work has been shaped by discrimination, privilege, and child labor. There's quite a bit about child labor in this book. And kids will meet a variety of working professionals and explore why we have careers, vocations, and professions. How is the way we work changing? And what is it going to look like in the future? I didn't even know that selling books for publishers could be a job when I was a kid, but I would have been very happy to imagine doing this job. And my last book is Urgent Message from a Hot Planet. Written for teens, this book begins with the acknowledgement that the climate crisis is the issue of our time, or at least it was until a month ago when things went bananas in Ukraine. This book's intended to inform youth about the climate crisis, the realities of the threat, its implications for their everyday lives, and the actions that can and are being taken by people of all ages and walks of life, to avert the worst impacts of a changing climate. It outlines the science behind global heating and the root causes, provides ways to take action, and honors the efforts of the millions of youth and adult allies from around the world working tirelessly to make a difference. And in case it sounds all too heavy and serious, the author has included personal stories, poems, and visual art about the climate crisis by youth from around the world, bringing an important personal element to the book. And that is it for me. Thank you so much, everybody. I will kick it back to Nikki and Sherry.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed the presentation. Thanks again to the Dewey, Divas, and Dude for putting this together. You guys were as amazing as ever. Just a quick reminder that we will be sending another follow-up email after the webinar with links to the PDF and the hot list. A recording of this event will be made available later to all registrants. So thanks again for joining us today, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day.